dude. Fucking Kijima, yo. The dude, Shiki Kijima, is a straight fiend right now, okay? I have to start off reading these dialogue bubbles, reading the end of the chapter first, because the chapter was deep. Yet again, Ishida going in, that Tokyo Ghoul greatness. We gotta go page by page. We gotta analyze the shit out of it, dude. And there was so much depth and so many things you could glean from the Dr. Kano x Naki dialogue that we definitely have to go there. And the feels that were abounding, okay, in the Sasaki and my boy Shu's dialogue was real. I need to spend a lot of time on those two sections of the chapter. But I need to start right here, because this man, anybody that wants to tell me that the shade does not exude and emanate from this fiend, that's why to this day I'm still gonna hold on to the ties to V and him being an insurgent in the CCG. I'm still gonna hold on, you know, him potentially having some sort of ties to Donato and being the way in which he got his information, knowing that he was a Cochlea, you know, interrogator in the past. This man has the straight up personal hidden warehouse, okay, with the checkered Yamori patterns on the ground in some unnamed district, luring the Tsukiyama ghouls in, luring the Rose ghouls in. He has Alisa in there. Let's just go. Let's just fucking go. If I were to describe my feelings now, it would be two amused and playful cats just grinning and looking at each other on top of the sofa. Such a calm mood. Ishida's writing, dude, just bringing out how warped and sick, how twisted this man's mentality is. But on the other hand, I also feel nervous like a festival goldfish in a water tank waiting to be picked up. The fucking metaphor is real right there, alright? A tea party oppressing the tickling, sadistic feelings. Alisa, I'm very happy you talked. I love talking. But as a servant, aren't you a bit too loose-lipped? I've become a little worried. You see her struggling in the chair. The man just takes the axe to her neck. At this rate, you're going to get axed from that failure of a Tsukiyama family. Dude, he just chopped off her head straight up and doesn't even tell her while she's alive. That's the fucked up part. He tells her after she's dead, after she's been decapitated. Despite all this, she was a pretty pure girl. The ghoul you tried to save was executed right after recording the video. He already killed the man. He already killed the man after slicing out his tongue and everything of that nature, okay? I knew we disposed of him. I knew he wasn't just keeping him there like that, okay? Way too pure. I'll make sure to let your master know about your purity. Kijima, yo. Kijima draws near is the tagline at the end of this chapter. With the amount of information I'm sure he obtained from Alisa right now, nobody in the Tsukiyama family is safe. Nobody's fucking safe. And if he goes after my boy Shu right now, after this chapter, after the culmination of his development and what I've been saying about my boy since the end of part 1, since early on in part 1, but I didn't really start reviews until the end of part 1 for Tokyo Ghoul, but I've been saying it, okay? I've been saying it, and it's 100% confirmed with this chapter, and what that means for his character, what that means for his development. It's almost as though his progression is coming full circle, and he's finally reaching that stage where he's blossoming into the person that I always knew he was. And with the thread of Kijima and the information he has right now, I easily foresee this arc starting to culminate with Kijima going straight in against Tsukiyama. Like, straight up, it could be a combination of just him, it could be whoever he wants to ambush the man with, but I definitely see a confrontation between particularly Kijima, but the CCG at large, and Tsukiyama, Shu himself. The only things that, and that worries me, that generally worries me, especially with his kind of shaky mind state at this point, his resolve being shattered by finally coming to the realization that he genuinely cared for Kaneki and genuinely cares for Sasaki, and the words that Toka spoke to him at Ri are starting to resonate with him to the point where everything that he went there to do, it was flowing for him naturally. Sasaki came to him with the desire to unlock his memories, and he couldn't go through with it, dude. And that fragility of the mind state that he's in, even though he's realizing this, I wonder where his resolve is going to go. And we're going to talk about this more in depth in a second, but just to say that if a confrontation with Kijima or any number of CCG members take place, I'm worried for Shu right now. I genuinely am worried for Shu. I don't want anything to happen to my boy. All I can say is my Master Mirumo better be a fucking beast. He better go in and sacrifice himself for his son, because right now I see, you know, death lurking above Shu, and that doesn't bode well for me. Okay, that doesn't fucking bode well. If anything happens to my boy Shu, you're going to see me cry / rage and go in, okay? So Mirumo either needs to sacrifice himself for his son. Something needs to go. Tsukiyama cannot go out like this. Okay, cannot go out like this. Maybe Chie can be the redemption and somehow save them from this situation and manipulate the information somehow, because we see Chie moving. My girl Chie is moving in this chapter. And I actually have a little bit of shade to throw her away, but ultimately, I fucking love her, and I don't doubt her in the slightest. I know whatever move she's making, she genuinely cares about Shu at the end of the day. So I feel as though she can have a hand in abating KIJIMA'S pursuit right now, because the man is straight feed mode. I don't trust him. I'm scared as shit of him. I still feel these dark ties with the man. And I don't. These last couple of pages are just crazy as shit. All right. But now that I'm done with that, let's actually get into the chapter. Go page by page. As you guys can tell, what I really want to talk about is Shu right now, and on top of that, Sasaki. But we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Right now, we need to dive into this Kano x Naki dialogue, which, to me personally, this scene has so much, like I said, there's so much information you can glean, a lot of info dump, a lot of things that you can read, you know, in between the lines with this dialogue between Kano and Naki. But it makes little sense to me why this is naturally occurring. It almost seems like its only purpose is to feed this information to the reader. And I rarely find scenes like that in TG which don't seem to naturally fit. Like, it just, to me, it's like, why is Kano taking the time to even request this of Naki when he's already started experimenting with Gaki and Gugi already? He says it under his breath. We know he's been doing it. He knows Naki's a fucking retard, and he's not going to understand half the things he's saying anyway. And ultimately gets my boy. And don't get him twisted. I love Naki. Naki's fucking amazing. Okay, just understand my position as far as Naki goes, because I never really talk about it. Naki is amazing. I do have feels for this character. I genuinely care about him. I said it back during the auction arc. I'll say it again. And the way Kano's playing up and manipulating his feelings, having him thinking that he's going to see the resurrection of his two comrades, his two Nakama. What the fuck is wrong with you, Kano? Why are you even taking the time to talk to this man? Unless he has some ulterior motive as far as Naki's concerned. And that's one thing I can see. But let's go through this dialogue, because we get a lot of information. And people are going to come at me real quick with the floppy discussion right now, because people are going to be like, your floppy theories have been debased. It's no longer Amon. No, it's too early to say that, all right? But I will say this to Kalila especially, and you know who you are. You know who I'm talking to. The theory about Kurona and Amon being together is probably the best bet right now, and that's probably where I'd lead to. But I'll explain more about what I'm talking about as we get into the dialogue, all right? So Kano calls in Naki with the suit game over 9,000, just sitting there with the fan and the bass pattern and whatnot. I'm like, dude, the man is a beast. The man is a boss right now. I'm not gonna lie, as fucking fiendish as he is, he's looking like a boss right now. And he's like, we get this information that apparently Gagi and Gui could not use their Kagune at all. He's like, both of them had a RC cell pipe blockage. And haven't you guys felt, like, no lie, I'm loving the exposition as to Ghoul biology that we've been getting heavily in the last handful of chapters. It's fucking amazing, dude. It just really rounds out and provides a different layer of worlding that's very relevant in terms of Endgame and the developments that have been going on right now. But anyway, Gagi and Gugi apparently had this RC cell pipe blockage near their kakuhou, which prevented them from releasing their Kagune. That bit of information right there, I was already like, yo, that's hype. That's fucking beast. I didn't even consider that a possibility ever. So to learn about that was beast, right? But he's like, but it is certain that the dormant Kagune they possess were of high quality. Hypothetically, if they were ever turned into Quinky, the data shows that their instant RC factor may be registered around 3,800, which is quite high. It's fucking quite high if you compare it to, the RC cell factors of the Qs that we know today, and if they were implanted with such kakuhou. We don't know what kakuhou were used for Urei, Saiko, Mizuki, and Shirazu at all, but ultimately the quality of it being 3,800, which isn't fucking as crazy as, the levels we get for, like, Sato in the next couple pages, or, how much the leagues and depths of and someone like Eto's RC factor, but I digress. Still quite up there. Still quite up there if you really think about it and put it into perspective, right? And he's like, why would you really like to make use of this in my research? But would you approve of that? Naki's just like, Pops, I don't really know anything about this hard stuff. Research, what the fuck is that? Is that an experiment? And kind of like that's the thing. He's like, I already dissected them. Let me tell you a little more. Why does he really need Naki's approval? It's not as if Naki, it's not as if Kano, to me personally, really cares about Naki, or anybody for that fact. Everything is in service of his research. I know this by the way he discarded Shiro like it was nothing, okay? The way that his dialogue with Kaneki back in part 1. I don't think he generally cares about, paying homage and the respect of, respecting the memory of Gagi and Gugi and Naki shit, so I don't understand why he's telling him all this. I really don't, other than to give the reader this information and to showcase this scene. But I digress. I want to analyze the Q's surgery. This is where shit gets interesting right now, because Kano gets into his whole method and how and everything he's been doing with his experiments and the success rate thus far. Talks about Sato, and I love this picture because we get the blood type, we get, the RC count and how it's progressed since the beginning to their transformation and everything like that. So to see this is fucking beast, right? He's like, the half-ghoulization surgery with Yoshimura base has a very low success rate of owls. Even using such tough ghoul investigators, there's only been one successful. That's the key word right there, because people are going to try and use this information to be like, yo, Amon's not a ghoul. Amon wasn't transformed. He's not, he's not a ghoul. Just because of that information, that there's only been one successful, does not mean that there weren't floppies of people with the Yoshimura base, aka Amon, okay? And floppy is not limited to just Kura and Shiro, because it's just a floppy equals a failure for, in terms of Aogiri terminology at this point in Kano's research. When Eto told Ayato to watch out for when floppy appeared during the auction, okay? When Eto said those words to Ayato, they said a floppy. I genuinely remember it being a floppy, not floppy, a floppy, okay? So that means there's more than one on the loose. Whether Amon has been transformed or not, right? And I still choose to believe in it. I'm going to get into my reasoning why in a second. But whether he's been transformed or not, I think that the very fact that Kuro and Shiro are equated to being floppies as far as Kano's concerned. They're failures. They weren't successful. They were prototypes that were inferior to Kaneki. If you think about back during, I believe it was around chapter 99, the Kano Lab Raid arc, where Kaneki was going in there and Kano releases a bunch of the failures that he made off the Risei base to attack Kaneki before he goes Centipede for the first time. I'm just like, okay, so the floppy is just a general term that does not disprove that Amon, isn't floppy. And if you look at the actual, TG Wikia, okay, because I actually had to use this after getting this information to clarify some things. If you look at the TG Wikia, they've changed floppy, they've changed floppy and what it specified from being particularly about this robe giant to the robe giant itself. So Amon, and I don't even need to call it robe. It is fucking Amon, okay? Anybody that doesn't believe this, I can't help you, okay? It's fucking Amon. The three-fingered robe giant that saved Psycho that fucking Akira is asking about right now is definitely Amon, okay? Does not separate it from being floppy one and the same. However, I could easily see Kuro and Amon post Shiro's death, Kuro being the one that, somehow saved Amon, if he's not actually a ghoul at this point. And the only thing that floppy refers to is Kurona. Saving Amon from Kano's research, breaking him out of there with the Aratsu, that does not explain why he has this new right arm with 3 fingers, okay? And it very well could be because people were just, trying to dispute and disprove that Amon was a ghoul, because, why didn't his arm regenerate fully then if he has a ghoul healing factor? What the fuck is up with that? Maybe that's one of the portions why he's a failed experiment. Maybe that's why he was not 100% successful like Takizawa. And there's no real reason. Even Kano himself does not know, because he's talking about, why Kaneki was successful, and he's like, is it because, is this successful because of a Risei-based cases are just better, or was it Kaneki's own power? I'm not sure. Even Kano does not understand why some individuals take better than other individuals and everything like that. So to see that there, I don't think that this dialogue inherently disproves that Amon is a ghoul at all. I really don't think, I don't think that it means just because Sato was the only successful one doesn't mean that Amon's not considered a floppy as well. Whether he is or is not, I can easily see him working with Kuro, and I will abide by that theory. I think it's a great theory, but there's no, the things that are confirmed for me is that Amon is on loose. He's considered a threat by Aogiri. I believe that they've been referring to him as a floppy. It could be Kuro, like I said, if she's working with Amon, but I believe they're referring to particularly him as a floppy. The man's hand, the fact that he has a Raja suit, those are all things that it's just fucking Amon, and I think he's undergone, you know, the transformation to some extent. I don't know what the deal is, but I believe in it wholeheartedly. So that we're gonna end with that discussion there, right? Let's get back into the panels. We sacrificed 1,200 bodies with the Risei base. This fucking man. And we only got 3 successful cases from that one. That's a success rate of 0.0025%. Okay, and I love the, like I said again, the pictures with the blood type, the RC cell, you know, ratings and everything like that. And you see that Shiro's was 3,700 about, Kuro's was 4,100. Alright, so instantly Kuro's RC factor above Gagi and Gugi, you can kind of get a range as to the RC cell state. You have Sato's, which is 71 fucking hundred. Okay, man, the man's a beast. But here's the thing, you can't put that above Kaneki's, and a lot of people are confused about the Kaneki ratings right here, jumping from 170 to 97, then the question mark. Okay, the 977 RC factor for me personally is definitely a measure of when Kano last had Kaneki in his possession to examine him in the first place, because he's the one that's given out this information to begin with. So back when he first transplanted Risei's kakuhou into Kaneki, when he was black hair early on, that was his rating. He has no idea what the current rating is, and even we know right now that Sasaki's RC rating is around, you know, 2,000, I believe, something like that, like 2,000, something like that, and he's taking, you know, the suppressants at the moment. So Kaneki being, you know, half Kakuja, having cannibalized Mad Ghouls, we've seen his strength level. I know his shit is on that Sato level, if not above. Okay, so there's nothing to really dive into there, right? But this is the best line of this one page. Anyway, as an experiment, he's complete, imperfect, because he's a growing perfection. To Kano, Kaneki is still the epitome of what he's been trying to do with this, you know, half-ghoulization and everything like that, and transplanting the kakuhous into individuals. But now I'm getting curious as to why he wants to go with this Q surgery. And I think that I found the answer as far as that concerns. Here's what he says. My half-ghoulization surgery research has too many uncertain factors and very low productivity. In comparison, the Q surgery is a lot safer and more effective so long as you pass an aptitude test. Chigyo really is a genius in ghoul research. I'd like to share a cup of tea with him, dude. Yo, imagine Kano and Chigyo. Imagine if Chigyo was actually a traitor too, which is just a random thought. There's no way it's true. But anyway, I like to use this technique in Owl no matter what. And I think this is what he's trying to do. Kano's not inherently just trying to bite off the Q's research, because making Q's is not necessarily what Kano's endgame is in terms of making artificial one-eyes. That's what he still wants to do, and he says he wants to implement this technique into the Owl research, no matter what, okay? What I think, for those of you who are unaware of how the Q surgery actually works and how it differs from the half-ghoulization, because I actually looked into this as well. Half-ghoulization, what Kano's method that he's been doing, is directly transplanting the kakuhou into the individual, and then it has to take, there has to be no rejection of the organ, etc., etc., etc. It's only been successful 100%, like he said, with Sato and with Kaneki and with Kuro and Shiro, even though they were more failed experiments. And the floppies, like Amon, potentially, you know, those fiendish deformed variants that he had in his lab back in the day, all of those not 100% successful. And even Kaneki, like he said, he's incomplete. He's an imperfect perfection in this way. And it goes back to the dialogue that he was having about breaking the cage back in part 1 during the lab raid and everything like that, right? Q surgery is pretty much the same concept, but from my understanding, they take the kakuhou, they wrap it in quinky steel so that it can't fully integrate with the individual's body, and then the frames how we've been talking about, frame 4 with Ure and everything like that, breaking down the frame walls in order to access more of the power and everything like that, and as a result, your RC, cell rate goes up, you become more of a ghoul, and this was what all of us were speculating, Ure going down that path and trying to unlock this power and becoming an actual ghoul himself and losing himself to the insanity and the ghoul tendencies and everything like that, right? So basically what I think Kano wants to do is implant the kakuhous using this method, after analyzing his subjects and everything. I'm wondering what human bases he's going to use for this as well. And I'm also scared that he's going to try and capture a fucking Q to analyze it. And if it's going to be anything, it's going to be Psycho or Mitsuki, dude. I'm not having that shit. I'm not having that. But either way, I think then he's going to break down all the frame walls and see if it's an easier method of integrating a kaku and having it take into an individual than just directly implanting it. So I think that's why he wants to delve into the Q's research, use Gage and Gugi's kakuhou, which are very viable in order to do it. I just don't know what subjects he's actually going to use for this. And does he have more CCG bodies lying around left? Are they still in the tanks, these owl tanks that you see on the wall? Who fucking knows? Naki's like, these Quinkies, these things you're talking about are doves, right? I don't know much about them, but you seem to know a lot, dude. And Kano just keeps going off on it. To reach a big goal, 2 things are required. One's determination and help from assistants. And the last thing I want to talk about with the Kano dialogue is this ambiguous assistant, right? The man's talking about Edison's assistant, Einstein's assistant, and Naki's like, my head hurts. What the fuck are you saying right now? And this is why, even in this, he's like, I guess I have to explain it in layman's terms. Is it just Kano wanting to fucking monologue and talk about his shit? Is he just hype about his experiments? Like, why is he taking the time to tell this and get Naki's hopes up like this, where he's like, I was wondering if you allow me to bring Gage and Gugi back to life. What do you mean, allow me? You could do it anyway. That's the thing that I don't get. So what is the purpose of Kano having this dialogue with him? You can really bring Gage and Gugi back to life in a certain way. Yes, really it's just, metaphorically speaking, they'll live on via their kakuhou being implanted into somebody. So that's pretty much how I see him trying to go about it, right? Naki's ecstatic. He's like, yo, Kano, I thought you were just an old fart, but you're a nice guy after all. He's hype as fuck. He sees the rest of his white suits. He's like, yo, Gage and Gugi are coming back. He's hype, dude. I'm like, yo, what is this? And it seems like in this last final that Kano is just somewhat interested in Naki to begin with. He's like, what an interesting fellow. His lack of intelligence is a typical example of the kind of ghoul that lack general education. And that even in that monologue, which we knew this already about Naki, we knew about his level of intelligence and where that stemmed from. But if you just think about that fact of what it means to be a ghoul and the very fact that he couldn't have a normal education like that, it's sad, dude. That's why I fucking love my boy Naki. There's so many things about him that are just tragic in his own way. I'm just like, Naki. I really do feel for this character. But anyway, then Kano goes on to say, an excellent assistant. I could be that assistant depending on the way you look at it. And then he says, I wonder how you're doing, my beloved prototype. Okay? And he says this also as he's touching the Yoshimura tank, and he's like, Yoshimura's kakuhou still hasn't recovered yet. Guess I'll have to play with Gage and Gugi until the next experiment. So he still hasn't given up completely on just his base half-ghoulization research as well. He's still going to be doing that with Yoshimura's kakuhou. But I digress. Who is this assistant that he's talking about, right? I have wild theories. I have more things that are more sound. The very fact that he says, I could be that assistant, depending on how you look at it, makes me feel as though he's referring to Yoshimura or whatever, or Rise, whoever he's been getting, whatever ghoul he gets the kakuhou from, as his assistants. Or better yet, if he sees it as them being the key to everything, he's really just the assistant facilitating things happening. So that could be one way as to what he's talking about. Another thing could be Eto. He could be referring to Eto as his assistant. Ultimately, Eto's physiology and biology and everything that we've been talking about in the last couple chapters are the epitome of what Kano is trying to do. Okay, so it could very well be that. Or it could be referring to to his creations as his assistants or whatever. Who the fuck knows, right? I was thinking to myself for a second that I know there's a relationship between Kano and Madame, and that back in the day, Kano manipulated Madame, saved Madame, and actually Taro-chan, the fucking, scrapper that she had during the gourmet arc that went after Kaneki, was also provided by Kano. So I'm wondering, and we know Madame made it out of the auction, so I'm wondering, is there still a tie there? Is that who he's referring to? But I was like, she's too petty to actually be this assistant, and that he would even place above him as the actual researcher and him being the assistant, depending on how you look at it. So then I'm just like, here's some wild things. What if it's Chie? Okay, what if Chie has been lurking and abiding by Kano and helping him out with this shit, which I seriously doubt that, and the thing I'm about to say right after this. I doubt it 100%. I don't even believe in it, but I want to throw it out there anyway. But it's going to hurt me. It's going to pain me to say these words. What if Hide is Kano's assistant? What if this whole time Hide has been working with Kano? And I see, that's the thing. I don't believe in it. Hide is one of my best boys. You guys know this, top 5 characters in the series. I cannot wait till the day that we see that he's alive, and if not, get the final confirmation. I fucking need that. People that have been speculating that Centipede and that persona holds the key to actually finding out about Hide, and we won't find out about it until we deal with that persona. I kind of abide by that as well, but I don't want to wait that long, because I don't know when that's going to happen. We still have this resolution between Whitehair and Sasaki's persona at this point, too. So, anyway, let's move on. Let's get on with this chapter, because I spent too much time on the Kano thing as it is, right? Then he goes to ask about Amon. He doesn't go to Donato, which I thought he was going to do in the first place. He's just asking this random dude that's, you know, in the siege. I have no idea who this man is. I can't remember his name, if I'm supposed to know it or anything like that. He just looks like some random motherfucker who has information, right? And Sasaki's still pondering. He's like, as soon as I wore the mask that I got from Uta the Ghouls, I approached, started calling me the eye patch ghoul. He's like, Amon chased him. He's like, this is the key to my memories. I don't know why he didn't just go to Donato once again, because Donato was telling him back when he first told him about Amon still lurking, whatever they were calling the ghoul at the time, whatever he referred to him as, because I know it cut away and just showed the silhouette. But he was like, that's the key to unlocking certain memories and everything like that. He said it himself. So I don't know why he's not just talking to Donato right now. But that's neither here nor there, right? Apparently, Amon's death is classified. Any information pertaining to Amon is classified. How he was defeated, what happened to him, it's all classified. And that's suspect to me. That's fucking suspect. Even Sasaki's like, classified. Why? And then we get this fucking page. This panel in the middle of the page where we have young Whitehair, the persona in his mind, asking him, he's like, what are you going to do once you know about the eye patch ghoul, about Kotaro Amon? And he's like, that's for your sake. He's like, mine, to save you, because I'm thinking of getting to know you. Wavering. And I've known for a while, ever since the whole mask operation, like I said last week, has been in the service of trying to unlock his memories. At this point, he's realized that no matter how he wants to struggle, and it's really going to be clarified through his dialogue with SHUU, which I want to end off with, and we're just going to go to right now. So I'm just going to table it for right now, right? Kanye still hasn't been found. No one uses Kanye. We don't see him in this chapter. Eto has him. I don't know what the fuck, you know, Eto's plan is, but Kanye is gone. So everybody around SHUU is falling one by one, and this is what leaves me with this unease for him, because I know the man, especially in his fragile mind state right now, and how much he genuinely cares for people around him. He does, no matter what anybody wants to say. He genuinely wants retribution for his servants that have been taken from him. He genuinely wants to bring, you know, reunite, you know, Isa back with whatever the dude's name was. I forget his name, right? Yuma, or whatever his name is, right? When he finds out what's happened to them, and that Kanye has been captured, if he finds out about that, or he just doesn't find Kanye and that unsettles him, even though I'd venture to say that ultimately what's been preoccupying his mind is Kaneki, but it's a result of that all of this is transpiring in the first place. I heavily see SHUU going in half crazed, just going, and then that very well could spill into whatever trap Kijima is going to lay, and that's why I fear for the man so heavily right now, and why Chie or Mirumo or somebody needs to do something for the man. Okay, Matsumai, I don't care what happens, somebody needs to be sacrificing themselves for SHUU. I don't want Chie to die, but I think she can come up with some sort of plan to avoid the worst case scenario. Either way, tells Alisa that he's going to do whatever it takes to get him back and everything as his atonement, and still his mind is preoccupied with Kaneki. Ultimately, heavily preoccupied with Kaneki, right? You see Alisa doing the research online, easily following Kijima's breadcrumbs. I knew it as soon as I saw her looking at it. I was like, oh my god, she's falling for the trap, right? But, that's not, we already discussed what her unfortunate fate did. I feel bad for her, I really do, but you fucked up. You fucking fucked up. You didn't know the kind of fiend you were dealing with. And then the best part of the chapter for me, in all honesty, is this dialogue between Sasaki and SHUU, okay? So let's read it, and then I'm going to talk about, you know, how I feel about certain things, how I feel about SHUU's mindset, Sasaki's mindset, and everything alike. Bonjour, I'm sorry about before. I was bothering you while you were busy. Don't worry, I'm sorry about interrupting in the midst of our conversation. And then SHUU, even when he first got there, he was still resolved to break his memories free and to return Kaneki to the surface. Let's see, how am I going to break the ice? I thought I could meet you if I came here. And she's like, oh, that's unexpected. I could use Hori's picture to do it forcefully. No, first we have to talk with each other deeply about our memories. Today I made sure to make time. Are you a ghoul, dude? The perception of Sasaki at this point. He knows pretty much all the pieces that he needs. He's already identified the vast majority of the kind of puzzles that are around, the puzzle pieces that are around him. He just doesn't have the information necessary. It's not like he doesn't have the blank slate to place the pieces in, dude. And so he's just kind of tiptoeing around everything, and his own memories being locked away from him makes it that much more difficult. But anyway, I digress. The very fact that this whole persona struggle is culminating with this arc was to be expected. And I foresee at this pacing and where we are now, around chapter 60-ish, that is when the final bout between the personas is going to start to come into play. Everybody, kind of speculating about the theories of how Ishida is trying to mirror, Ri off of the events of part 1 with certain things, and we've definitely seen it in various chapters along the way, so I highly foresee it happening there, but it's no longer as simple as one person being the key to unlocking his memories at this point. Although Amon or Hide, if they appeared in front of him, I would say that they'll probably trigger something tremendous for the man, and it might be the break that he needs right there. But I was convinced that she was going to have a heavy hand to play in regaining Kaneki's memories at the beginning of this arc. And after this chapter, everything's been turned on its head, alright? He's like, I'm sorry to ask out of the blue. You see, I'm a ghoul investigator. Blah, blah, I don't need to read this dialogue, right? Like, do you know someone called Uta from the mask shop, or Yotsume and Fueguchi? Do you? And Tsukema's like, what the fuck? Was there a link? Is there a visible link between us? It's like, Kaneki, is this you as an investigator? Just what the fuck are you trying to, what's your goal here? He's like, let me ask you again, are you someone who knew Kaneki? Everything that the man is saying up to this point is giving Shu an opening in order to do exactly what he came there to do. He's like, I'm here individually as Heisei Sasaki, not first-class investigator Sasaki. I've avoided learning about myself all this time, but I think I have to face him now. I think I should know. He's realized that as much as he wants to hold on to this kind of fragile and false state of affairs, and how much this family that he's found in the queues, Akira, Arima, and feeling as though he genuinely belongs, and holding on to this kind of idea that, as much as deep down he knows that he's a ghoul, and there's something of him, and that there's whole history unknown to him that he really needs to delve with, these personas conflicting with his will that he really needs to, that he decided that he doesn't want to leave behind, and that it would be too sad to let them fade into nothingness. He realized that ultimately he has to remember. There's nothing else he could do. He can't live in this dream forever, okay? And it's just completely, you see the progression of how far Sasaki's come throughout Ri at this point and at this stage where he's finally starting to want to delve into this other side of him. It might be helpful. I don't think it's good that he disappears from inside my head, so please. And she was just like, wait, the past you're trying to learn about might be much crueler than you can imagine, which is exactly Toka's kind of outlook and what she told him at Ri, last chapter. Exactly the same. Alright? No, that's okay. If he regains his memory, you see the conflict start to arise in him, and this is what I love, and this is what I was talking about earlier, where we see finally the confirmation, the true recognition from Shu himself as to where, his heart truly lies. Okay? No matter what changes, even if you have to abandon your previous life, would you mind at all, is what he asks him.